Good evening, Philly. This is Tony Cutillo, Late Nights, HRS. You know the deal. Like, subscribe. What is up, everybody? Like we do every Monday through Thursday from 11 to 1 a.m. Eastern Time on Heat Ratio Sports. I am Tony Cutillo. And as always, man, like we like to do is talk about everything in the Philly landscape as well as my favorite, which is professional wrestling. Again, as always, make sure you're liking and subscribing the show. Make sure you're liking the channel, subscribing to the channel. And as always, man, comment away. The phone lines are open. If you want to give a call in, get you up on the air, give you a quick segment. We can talk about what's on your mind. A lot of stuff going on, man. A lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's going to be a fun show. My man Joe checking in says, Saul, there were 30,000 more at the Rumble at Trop than the Rays at their opening playoff game, bro. I think they quadrupled what they had at their opening playoff game, man. That it was actually it's crazy, man. I think it was like 48,000 something, just absolutely nuts. WWE is taking over the world. It's a fun time in professional wrestling. It really is. And again, we're gonna get into that later because this was Royal Rumble weekend, and there was a lot of stuff going on. Now, if you see this live on Twitter, you're just going to see a screen, right? But you got to turn the volume up because this is a live audio stream, not doing video, just live audio, man. Live audio stream, just like you'd be listening on the radio. It's something fun. It's something laid back. It's casual conversations. And again, we're going to break it all down from what happened this weekend, which was painful for us Eagles fans, to say the least, to be able to watch a game where we should have been in, where we should have been playing in ourselves. Unfortunately, that was not the case. But we're going to talk about, number one, obviously, Eagles beefing up their defensive coaching, their offensive coordinator. You know, what do you think about the Kellen Moore hire? You know, obviously it's something that's always talked about, but I want to hear from my peeps, man. I want to hear from my people. I want to hear what you're thinking because you got to help me here. I'm not overly enthused. I'm not overly excited. Am I wrong for that? I don't know. I had a very interesting conversation when I was on Twitter, or I should say Facebook, because a lot of my audience is on Facebook, family, friends, you name it. And I brought up the question of trading AJ Brown. Now, again, I'm not saying I want to trade AJ Brown, but I'm saying if there is an option, if the hand is forced, if there's obviously something that cannot be dealt with internally on a team, whether it be personal pride, whether it be monetary figures, whatever it is, would you move on from AJ Brown? And I had a lot of great information when it comes to AJ Brown, which was I'll tell you what, a lot of great responses. I'm going to get into that as well. Also get into the new GOAT, in my opinion, which is Andy Reid. And if you don't think Andy Reid is the GOAT, I'm telling you, man, you're sadly mistaken. Stop getting hung up. Stop getting hung up on the rings and the championships. And Andy Reid, for all intents and purposes, you see what's going on with Bill Belichick. How quick does Bill Belichick have a job? Andy Reid was gone. And then guess what? Andy Reid was scooped up the next day. And that's the crazy part about it. So I want to get into it, you know, just take away everything. Just strip it all away and just talk about actual coaching. And I think Andy Reid right now is proving how much of the GOAT he really is. And there's an entire huge lineage when it comes to this argument. And we're going to get into this all week. It's something I want to talk about all week. I want to talk about the coaches that he was with, the Andy Reid tree, which just continues to grow branches. Who was on that Jim Johnson staff? You name all those coordinators, all those coaches out there that now have become staples within the NFL. And then just what he's done with this Chiefs team, man. Just what he's done with this Chiefs team has been nothing short of amazing. You know, he coached his way through adversity this entire year. And that brings you to another topic I want to talk about tonight. And that is defense wins championships. Will Fangio force the Eagles' hands when it comes to investing in the defense? Let's make no mistake about it. If you watched football this weekend, you 100% saw that defense wins championships. Two people won their respective games. Two people were the MVPs of each game. One, which we knew was going to be, that's Steve Spagnuolo. We knew Spags was going to be MVP. We've said it all along. We've talked about it continually every single week. I know I've talked about it nauseum. I've talked about it, and I've said, listen, this is the reason why they're going to go to the Super Bowl. He held it together. Listen, when you only give up 41 points in the playoffs, you only gave up 41 points with guys you faced like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Are you kidding me? 41 points. Stud. Spags is a stud. And then you go on the other side, and please give Steve Wilks his just due. Now, I get it, right? You know, he takes over for DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is out there balling out in Houston. But Steve Wilks, that defense got smacked in the mouth. But what do we always say? And again, I get it. People are going to bring up, well, the drops, and if this guy doesn't drop the ball and this doesn't, okay, relax, okay? Just calm down and relax. My point is, he went into halftime and adjusted. He went in and adjusted the game plan. And a team that was getting the mop smacked out of them, okay, by the Detroit Lions, shut them out in the second half, man. Essentially shut them out in the second half. So I have to give Steve Wilks his flowers because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody's even talking about it. Everybody's talking about the drops. But nobody's talking about that San Francisco 49ers defense adjusting the game plan to what those Detroit Lions were doing and coming out victorious. So again, defense wins championships. Now, all we hear about in Philadelphia is scoring, points, right? That's all we hear about is points. Well, will Vic Fangio force the Eagles' hand a little bit when it comes to investing in the defense? I mean, they're beefing up. Listen, they're beefing up their lines, man. They're beefing up their lines. I mean, they're line coaches, defensive line coach, their secondary coach. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Some really, really good hires. Very interesting. They come from Seattle again, right? Where Sean Desai came from. I keep saying, Sean Desai got a raw deal. Sean Desai will go somewhere and he will elevate his game and he will prove that he was every bit good enough to do this job here. But we're also going to have to get into the Royal Rumble. We're also going to have to talk about, is it Bayley time in the WWE? We're also going to say, who needs Sasha Banks when you have Jade Cargill? If anybody's seen Jade Cargill, oh my God. I have not seen a debut ever like that. And you talk about putting her over instantly. They gave her the Brock Lesnar approach. They gave her the Goldberg approach. They gave her every dominant wrestler's approach within the entire history of the WWE. And she literally had the audience feeding off of her hand. This girl is an absolute stud. She's a star. And who needs to pay Sasha Banks when you have Jade Cargill? So I want to get into that too. I want to see what you think about Bayley. Again, I called it. I said Bayley was going to win. I just saw it coming. Bayley went through a lot of adversity over the last couple of years. I think she's finally ready. And again, with all the adversity surrounding and the cloud of judgment within the WWE, you have to think about it. Now that it's it's Triple H's show. Triple H is a huge Bayley fan. So you kind of see this coming. And again, Charlotte's out for a year almost, right? So you need somebody to take over that role. So that's definitely going to be something of of precedence. Hey, Joe, that chick Jade's body is insane. Joe, you're unbelievable. She is chiseled. And you do know her husband is Brandon Phillips, right? Just so you know, like Brandon Phillips is her husband, because there were a lot of people coming out, but like, what is? I'm like, dude, Brandon Phillips is her husband, man. Like she has the lineage of sports, and she has that workhorse mentality, because not only just her will to wrestle, but her husband is being her performance coach too. So there's a lot of things going on right now in the world of sports, but one thing we're going to go right off the top from, I got to ask the question. Is Andy Reid surpassing Bill Belichick? Andy Reid or Bill Belichick? And I have to ask that. I have to ask that. Joe says, I didn't know. Yeah, she did drop to a knee one time after a punch. Bro, she picked up Nia Jax and literally had her up with one arm and flexed with the other arm. Dude, that was insane. But yeah, if you go through on Twitter too, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it, she, on her profile, if you go to it, she has a picture of her just staring into the ring, and you can see Brandon Phillips with her daughter. He's got a phone in the hand. He's taking a picture of it. It's a pretty cool moment, because he's another, like, he pushed her to this. Like, he kept pushing her because he knew that she's the it factor. She's as simple as that. She has everything. She has charisma. She has the look. She has the strength. It's her future is so bright, so bright. So I can't wait to see that unfold. But let's get right to it when we talk about Andy Reid. And it's tough, man. It's tough right now. Because we look at it and this was our guy, right? This was our guy. And I asked the question, does he need to win to be the GOAT? And that's my biggest thing. Does he need to win to be the GOAT? He's served as the guy since 2013 for the Chiefs. Remember, he was let go from the Eagles and literally was picked up the following day. I mean, literally was like picked up the following day. Bill Belichick's still looking for a job, by the way, just so everybody knows. Bill Belichick's still looking for a job. And guess what? He might not even find one. Andy Reid was scooped up the first day by a pretty historic franchise, too. The Hunts have always run a historic franchise in Kansas City. So it's not like he was just picked up by somebody like the Carolina Panthers. No, they saw the lineage. They saw the greatness. They saw Andy Reid. They said, you know what? We want this guy. Holds a regular season coach record, 258 and 144 at one time. Postseason record of 24-16 over his tenure as a head coach. Those numbers, courtesy of the Sporting News. Chrissy Freud wrote a good article about contract details. And I was breaking it down thinking, Andy Reid is signed until 2026. So you have to think about that. Well, actually paid through the 2025 season, not 26. Where does that go? Where do we go, man? Where do we go? Like, is it possible that Andy Reid wins a Super Bowl and goes out gracefully this year? Is that possible? Because I think it is. I do. I think it is. Now, Joe says he does not need to win, or he said he does need to win. Getting there isn't enough. Nobody mentions Marv Levy as a top coach. You're right. But Marv Levy never won at all. That's my point, right? It's not like Andy's never won. What I mean is nobody's ever going to win the amount of rings that Bill Belichick has, right? I mean, in my opinion, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Not in today's NFL. That dynasty will never be reformed on another team, in my opinion. No way. Through free agency and injuries and it just won't happen. It just won't happen. But we also used to talk about the records of the quarterback, right? Dan Marino never had a ring. Was he greater than Joe Montana? And everybody elevated Joe Montana up to that next step because he had the rings. And Marino didn't, even though Marino had the records. Obviously before Peyton Manning. But it's interesting to me because it definitely fuels the whole Brady Belichick narrative. And I'm not a guy who says it was one or the other. I fully feel they both needed each other in order to get that. So if Andy didn't have one already, sure. But all he does is get to the big dance. All he does is get to the big dance consistently. Whether it be, and I know we've been through some nightmares when it comes to NFC Championship games right here in the city of Philadelphia. I get it. But overall, what this says to me, number one, Andy is a player's coach. We know that. Wait, he's 100% a player's coach. We all know that. 100%. Guys love Big Red. Guys love Big Red. And I also think it was telling that as soon as Bill Belichick left, they automatically gave it to Jerome Mayo, right? And they said, boom, there you go. Head coach. Sorry, Bill. Can't come back here. Like it was almost like they did it purposely, just like, let's get this taken care of, let's get out of the way. And now Bill's still sitting out there. You could say it's because he wants too much power. Listen, I don't know if that's a media-driven narrative or not, but maybe people just think he's done. Maybe people just think they look at what happened out there in New England and maybe he didn't fit anymore with the younger players. So again, it's a very interesting conversation. And my man David checking in. What's up, David? Says Andy Reid will win another Super Bowl against San Francisco. I'm not going to doubt that. Not only do I want Kansas City to win, okay, but I mean, I expect them to win. I do. I look at this and just the way, and obviously it's going to be fixed, okay? It's going to be fixed. I gave Steve Wilkes his flowers earlier, and I'm going to still give him his flowers. But Detroit definitely gave them a little of an opening as well, which, again, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be able to do that. Meaning, Kansas City Chiefs aren't going to give them that many opportunities. And for a team that loves to run the ball up the middle with Pacheco, this could be a long day for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the only thing I will say is, the one thing about the Niners, and you saw it, their secondary is not great. Okay. And that's why if you follow Win Daily Sports, which you should, if you're a sports bettor or a DFS player, when we did the NFL Draft Cast, which we do every Wednesday night, well, not this week, but I talked about Jameson Williams being that guy, being that dude, because I knew that they had nobody to cover him with that speed. And that's going to be a problem. The only thing is, who's that guy? Are we going to rely on MVS to be that guy once again? But they pose a huge matchup problem for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, for the San Francisco 49ers because of Travis Kelce and because of, it sounds crazy, but Noah Gray and Justin Watson. Now, I know Justin Watson's kind of a hybrid tight end, but they're going to pose some issues for that defense. So it's going to be interesting. But I don't think Andy needs to win again. to be the GOAT. In my opinion, you need to win one, at least win one. Okay. As long as you win one and then you consistently get there, because you know how hard it is. It's different if you win one and never get back there. Obviously, you can't be the GOAT, right? I get it. Like everybody talks about Brian Billick. Really? Not a big Brian Billick guy. You know, he rode the coattails of that defense. Not saying he wasn't a great coach, but to be able to call him the GOAT, no, not going to happen. And I look at this and I say, you got to take the entire body of work, whether he lost or not in those championship games, whether he lost or not in a Super Bowl. He at least got you to one, right? He at least got you to one. Unfortunately, it wasn't here in Philadelphia, and I firmly believe that he's going to get you to two at least, with this one being number two. So, and again, back to back, man, back to back's not easy. I get it. I know people have done it, but still, back to back's not easy, especially in this day and age. Especially in this day and age, especially the way they did it. See, that's what I think is amazing. It's amazing about Big Red. You look at, and if you're not a Philadelphia Eagle fan, you don't know the story. Or maybe you're a football fan, you do know the story. But to see him consistently get to NFC championship, and still not have that number one weapon, getting there with guys like a Dorsey Levens at running back, James Thrash and Todd Pinkston. I mean, you think about it, L.J. Smith, Brent Selleck, Jeff Thomason. These weren't, storybook names here, man. But he still got them there. Now, yes, maybe, a guy like Ricky Manning Jr. wouldn't have killed us because of, he wouldn't have punked out Todd Pinkston if we had, if we would have had T.O. at that time, or we would have had a better receiver. I know you could say that. I get it. But it speaks to how good his scheme was and how much he elevated the confidence in his players. And I don't think people talk about that enough. I don't. I really don't. And I used to hate it, man. Like, we all hated it. We all hated that they never had a receiver. We all did. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And that's why we loved T.O. when he got here. But when you look at the entire landscape, you gotta look at what he's done to elevate these no-name kind of guys. And he's doing it again, man. He's doing it with Isaiah Pacheco, making him a household name. He continues to do it, boosting up confidence in MVS after all those drops and those pitiful play, and he's still throwing them out there, and he's still giving them the damn big plays, and he's coming through. Completely revolved an offense around Travis Kelce and made him into one of the, if not the best tight ends of all time. Patrick Mahomes, a project, moves up to get Patrick Mahomes. He wanted Patrick Mahomes. You could say what you want about Big Red, but this could be one of the greatest quarterback whisperers of all time. Just by the tutelage that he's bestowed upon some of these guys. And I everybody say, oh, well, come on, man, it's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes needed to be built up, man. Let's not forget about that. Like, he had a weird style. He was raw. Andy knew exactly how to make him legit. And that's what's great about Andy. And that's what I love about Andy. And again, this is HRS Late Nights. I am Tony Cutillo. Be here every night, Monday to Thursday, 11 to 1, 11 to 12, 11 to 12, 30, whatever the conversation goes. We usually cover about 2 to 3 topics. Obviously, call lines are open. You'll see the comment in the thread. Somebody had popped in earlier. They dropped. If they want to get back on, pop back in. I'll get you on the air. We could talk about it. We're talking about Andy Reid. Does he need to win to be the GOAT? Does he need to win more rings? Joe says, if Billick gets in that GOAT ring. Vermeil has to be involved, making the Super Bowl with two organizations 20 years apart. I don't disagree. I don't disagree, man. I mean, Vermeil's got a hell of a story. That's the thing. Like Dick Vermeil has a hell of a story. And that's the funny thing. And you look at it, and as much as we're all talked about in Philadelphia as being crazy and being these maniacal fans and being unreasonable and being tough minded, this and that, but man, you look at two guys in Dick Vermeil and Andy Reid that couldn't care for their players anymore. Honestly, like you talk about family oriented, driven coaches, meaning who they coach is family. There's nothing like either of them, and I think that's why they've been successful for so long. And like Joe said, two different organizations. Obviously, we talk about the Eagles and the Rams, and look what he did with Kurt Warner. Like, think about that, right? I mean, this dude's bagging groceries at Giant or Gennardi's or whatever it was, and all of a sudden he becomes an MVP. I don't think we look at that stuff enough, man. I don't. I think we get involved too much into media storylines that obviously take the front page and they overtake social media, and we never really dive deep into breaking down who these guys really are and what they do and what some of their success stories could be. And this is a huge success story that I don't think gets talked about enough. For me personally, again, I am going to say that Andy does not need to win another one to be the GOAT. I think just his resume alone with the championship he already has is enough for me. For me, that's enough. So if you don't think it's enough, let me know. I know Joe's mentioned it. I don't know about David, but anybody else checking in, let me know if you're listening to this on replay tomorrow, like I know a lot of people are going to. Let me know. Now let's talk about AJ Brown. AJ, where is AJ Brown? Anybody know where AJ Brown is? Because I can't find him, man. Nobody can find AJ Brown. Again, this is HRS Late Nights, Heat Ratio Sports. Tony Cutillo as your host. Again, coming to you every night, Monday through Thursday, dropping some heat, talking about Philly, talking about national, talk about wrestling. Obviously, some guests tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to having my man Nick Picone on. Nice interview, talking, recapping the Royal Rumble. Does a great podcast, Straight Shooters with Vaughn Johnson. They talk a ton of wrestling, and I cannot wait to get his take on a lot of things that happen tonight on the Raw program as well, with Bayley, with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, is what's going to happen with The Rock and Reigns. I cannot wait to hear it all. We'll get Nick his insight tomorrow night as long as everything goes as planned. But right now, have to ask about AJ Brown. There's a lot of talk about AJ Brown. Now, I asked this question, and of course, like always, it gets taken completely out of context. Okay. I simply asked, based on what we hear nothing from AJ Brown, but based on what we hear, and based on the intellect of the Philadelphia sports fan, if you do not understand yet that there is something going on, whether it be between Jalen and AJ, whether it be between Sirianni and AJ, whoever it is, something is going on with AJ Brown. Now, for the record, before everybody starts blasting me, I am not condoning and saying I'm not advocating for them to trade AJ Brown. I'm simply bringing up, again, I'm asking the question. There's no rumors here. There's no speculation. If you want to do that, go pop on the radio and listen to half those guys that fabricate arguments. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just asking a question. I'm looking at, number one, contract stipulations. Number two, Devontae Smith needing to be extended. Number three, money. which is all about money, right? I look at two guys who got paid in Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and it makes A.J. Brown's number look extremely low when he signed that 4-year, $100 million deal. Now, all of a sudden, A.J.'s underpaid. And now A.J.'s saying, look, I damn near almost had 2,000 yards. I probably would have had it if I didn't miss any plays or a game, or if the offense wasn't what it was. He damn near would have had 2,000 yards almost. So he's thinking in his mind, I should be getting paid more. Well, they're not going to pay two guys, are they? No way. No way they're going to pay two guys. So what way do they go here? So all I'm saying is, if this seems like a problem that you don't think you can fix, do you tough it out and say, you know what? He'll get over it. He'll figure it out. Or why his value is probably as high as it's ever been, do you try to move on from him? Because technically, this isn't like the last year of a deal where you have to get rid of him, right? Where it's like one of the, we're going to get rid of him because we want to pay him. Tennessee got rid of him because they didn't want to pay him. Simple as that. Got rid of him because they did not want to pay him that big money. I'm not saying I wouldn't pay him the big money. He's 26 years old, man. He's got a lot of football left in this kid. And we saw how dominant he could be. But my question is, with all these things considered, would you do a deal if he got you a second round pick? Would you do that deal? And again, I had some fantastic comments, and I 32 comments on this post, and I'm going to read them out now. Just so you know, I mentioned this before, so make sure, and I'll broadcast it here and I'll advertise it here. I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, I love having conversations. I don't call anybody a dope. I don't tell anybody they're wrong. I may disagree, but respectfully. I may call somebody, man, you're out of your mind. Like, wow, not meaning you're an idiot, but meaning like, dude, that opinion is way out there. I'll respect it, but wow, like balls of steel, right? Like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. But I 100% am going to be shifting my audience over to a fan page. And just, because listen, man, like, I'll be honest with you. This is a crazy ass world. So, and I think it's easier because Facebook is so crazy right now. And, sometimes when you follow like a group page or something like that, things get all kinds of crazy. So I'm actually going to make like a group to where anybody can join. Doesn't necessarily have to be a page. And I'm going to make it, and it's going to be combined. It's going to be media. It's going to be sports media. It's going to be PR. And what I mean by PR, it'll be, mainstream things, client talk, whether they're sports or not, but mainly sports. And I posted today, simply put, would you trade A.J. Brown? With my reasoning saying, complete silence after he spoke out, meaning after he held that conference in front of his news, his own press conference, so to speak, in front of the locker room, all of a sudden we haven't heard from him. What does that mean? I don't know. Zero advocacy for his quarterback and best friend. The guy who is the godfather of his daughter. Zero advocacy for his quarterback, which is kind of strange. A contract he feels he outplayed. Remember, he's 26, and with his numbers, should be in the Chase Jefferson territory and is going to line up for another huge deal. And then, with a lot of money tied up, Devontae will be up for a deal, and you can't pay them both. So I asked everybody, based on that reasoning, what would you say? Some of the comments, which I think were brilliant. Eric says, this smells like the T.O. saga all over again. I've been saying this for 2 months. It's starting to feel similar to that. He says, new contract, trouble with his quarterback. People said it's crazy to think we would trade him. I don't think it is. I think he actually may be considering Nick is back too. I don't know if you wanted him back. Thinking he's saying he had a problem with the head coach. Okay. I get it. I understand. Good point. Al says, and I respect Al. Al's a part of the HRS family. But I think Al sometimes gets a little crazy and he doesn't really read what I was saying. He just wants to jump off. He's ready to attack, man. Like Al's ready to attack. And it's so funny because right away he goes, bro, this is a far reach. Y'all said he was mad that he wasn't getting the ball. He told y'all that wasn't the truth. Y'all and Marcus Hayes called him a cancer. And when he spoke out, y'all didn't believe him. Now, because he went dark on IG, he wants to get traded. Nobody said he wanted. I didn't say he wanted to get traded. Where did I say he wanted to get traded? Al says, all speculation, it was because he was hurt and he wasn't going to play in the playoffs. I wish the city would stop assuming everything. AJ is a grown man. If he had something to say, he would. He's not going anywhere. Well, Al, I hope that's correct, and I hope you're his agent. But let me just say something, man. I love you, bro. All due respect. Okay. I don't know how I get lumped into y'all. Okay. I never called him a cancer. He spoke out because he got pressured to speak out. I came on this program and specifically said, good for him. Good for him because he felt the tension and he felt everything that was going on within that team. So I actually stuck up for him, contrary to what you think. Another thing is, all speculation, it was because he was hurt and he wasn't going to play in the playoffs. That's fine. That doesn't mean you go to a celebrity boxing event. Just throwing it out there. Don't go support your team. I'm just asking. Seems kind of odd, don't you? Listen, everybody, he's a grown man, you said. Fine. All I'm saying is you get called, you're out, you're on the next plane out to go be Damon Feldman's guest at celebrity boxing. Just seems kind of weird, man. I'm just throwing it out there. Just seems kind of weird. So, again, Al says we have zero shot of getting back to another Super Bowl without him. Don't know about that. I think there's things you could do. Now, Joe says, I'm keeping AJ. Unlike Sirianni and his constant blabber, AJ was quiet, but everybody wants to speculate. Changes have been made. He could do very well because of his talks with the front office. Dude didn't get targets. Offense seemed to resort to specific players getting the ball. I'd be pissed too when in 22 I caught many 50-50 balls that seemed to be non-existent this year. Good point. He also says if his latest actions were due to a contract issue, then no, I would make him play out the deal. If they specifically didn't target him because of a contract, then we have a bigger problem. That would be crazy. My man Paul says, why was Tennessee so willing to trade him? Was it his attitude? I said it was bad knees and because they didn't want to pay him, right? My man Brian says, you can't have both. One wideout has to go. I love AJ, but never put anything off the table. Listen to all offers. The only thing is we are a mess at drafting wideouts, and you need a bigger body with having Smith as your number one. I don't disagree, man. I don't disagree. I listen to everything. I would listen to everything. My man Vance, I wouldn't trade AJ. He's too young and too good to replace him with equal value. They'll re-sign Devontae, knowing that they'll have more salary coming off the books in the next 2 years. Got to imagine that Lane will retire over the next 2 years, and that'll clear some cap. They'll also have to hit on the draft picks in the secondary and at running back, eventually left tackle also to save some cap, which is all true. He says, I think the first order of business was getting an OC that can get them back on track. They've done that. They were being held back. I think they rebounded in a big way next season. Winning is the best medicine. Interesting. I like it. My man Pete checking in says, sit him down. Talk with Kellen Moore. See how this offense will work. Make decisions, but don't take a fifth for him. Concentrate on making this new offensive line gel with losing Kelsey unless he comes back. Resign Swift and get a true slot receiver. Next, Fangio should evaluate the defensive free agents. Cox earned a right to be re-signed and could be a great role model to our other defensive tackles. Need a stud linebacker and a cover corner. Draft secondary, either line, and teach proper tackling. I like that last line. Teach proper tackling. That's for damn sure what needs to happen. I could tell you that. My man Mike says it. Great. One of the best comments and threads right here by my man Mike. Says, if I was the Eagles and A.J. Brown, I would play this year out. It's a win-win for both sides. Under Kellen Moore, he and Hurts get to prove what they are worth. If he does play well, and this is where Mike gets really analytical, and I love it. If he does play well, he at worst is franchise tagged the following year for $28 million. And if he kills it, he gets the 5-year extension for $130 million. If they trade him, he won't get a new deal. He'll still have to prove it wherever he goes, and we don't get anything better than a 2 or 3, and I'd rather have AJ than a 2 or 3. We will score a lot more next year, and Moore is pass happy too. Great comment. He also says, I don't see them paying Graham, Cox, or Bradbury, meaning they could cut Bradbury in June for $4 million of dead cap space. Plus, the cap figure on Hurts isn't horrible next year. We all know that Hurts has a nice cap-friendly deal. He says they will have cap space also if Kelsey does retire, which seems unlikely. I think it actually seems likely. He says, and they would have money there, and if he comes back, he'll give the Eagles a hometown discount. I definitely agree with that, 100%. And again, if you could draft a linebacker like the Junior Axeman out there and Trotter Jr., and listen, you're going to save $8 million with that stiff Mariota as well. So a lot of great comments on that. I have to give it to everybody. If you're going to listen to this on replay, I love the comments. I love them. They keep coming. I'll answer them as much as I can. So it almost seems like the consensus in we're going to keep A.J. Brown. And again, I don't not want to keep A.J. Brown. But my biggest issue is if there's something like I'm already not happy. I'm already not happy that Sirianni's coming back. Okay. But if you're going to waste a year and we're going to have a sit out or we're going to have issues on and off the field, like I don't want to deal with that, man. I don't want to deal with that, bro. Like, we've dealt with that before, and it sucks, and it stinks. We're already trying to figure out what's going on with our quarterback, what he's mad at, what he's discouraged at. We're already trying to figure that out. We don't need another mystery here, too, to help bring us down, and that's my issue. I just don't want another dead year. Where were the jump balls to AJ this year? Yeah, like your comment, Joe, like I just read, I agree. He torches Pittsburgh last year. I don't recall any this season. I don't either. The only jump ball, and it wasn't even a jump ball, was that play that they went rogue on, right, in Seattle. But that wasn't even a jump ball. So it definitely brings up some very interesting points. All those comments brought up some very interesting points when we talked to cap space, we talked to money, and we really, really break it down, from a standpoint of, what is he going to get paid? Is he not going to get paid? So again, let's see what happens. I still say, and I'm going to continue to say, I am not advocating for A.J. Brown to be traded. I'm simply asking, should it be thought about if there is a lot of issues that cannot be fixed? It's that simple. That simple. And thinking of that, I do think that it is something that you definitely need to consider. Now, what I will say about the Eagles is they're really doing their homework when we talk about the coaching staff. Now, I'm curious to say and think about, are these Vic Fangio guys? Or are these guys they picked that? Like, who are these guys? And a lot of people are excited about Clint Hurt, younger guy, 45. play on the defensive line in college, but he's had a lot of go arounds. He's overlapped with Fangio, okay, in Chicago. He was the Chicago Bears assistant defensive line coach in 2014. He was the outside linebackers coach in 15-16. And then he was the assistant head coach, defensive line coach in Seattle with Pete Carroll from 17-21. And then 22-23 Seattle defensive coordinator. So the interesting part that I like is he knows the system that Fangio wants to run. He knows the system that Fangio wants to run. So I like that right off the bat. But the one that I really love is Carl Scott, another young guy from Seattle. And I love Carl Scott because of what he's been able to do in the secondary when it comes to young guys in Seattle. Now, the crazy thing is, he began coaching 17 years ago, right? He's, like I said, he's only 38. He's only 38, okay? Pro level in 2021, he was the Minnesota Vikings coach, defensive backs coach. And then 22-23, he served as the Seahawks senior defensive assistant and passing game coordinator. But here's the thing. And this quote taken from Bleeding Green Nation, sent 4 defensive backs to the Pro Bowl in the past 2 years. The referenced players were Tariq Woolen as a rookie, Devin Witherspoon as a rookie, Quandre Diggs, and Julian Love. He notably also worked with Harrison Smith and Patrick Peterson in Minnesota. This, honestly, could be one of the best hires of the entire offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. Think about it. He's shown the ability to work with veterans and young guys. So obviously, he has the pedigree. He has the respect. Okay? So because he has the respect, he gets the veterans. Because he has the pedigree and the message, he gets the rookies. And if you think about this Philadelphia Eagles team, we're going to have some young guys on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. Kelly Ringo, already talked about it. I think it's a foregone conclusion. The only guy back in the secondary from a veteran standpoint, in my opinion, is most likely than not going to be Darius Slay. I would be shocked if Bradbury's here. I'd be shocked if Byard's here. He showed me he's washed, man. Like, I'm sorry. I can't believe it. I saw nothing from Kevin Byard that said, wow, we need to keep him. I'm shocked. Like, it always happens with those guys. It's always like, we don't see them. We're stat hunting. That's all we're doing. Kevin Byard was a name and a stat. Unfortunately. How many Tennessee Titans games did you watch? And if he plays on defense, if you're watching Red Zone all the time, you can't even include that, right? So, I mean, how often did we see him play? We didn't. So you're essentially going to be starting off with slaying a bunch of young guys. You're going to have Kelly Ringo, and you're most likely than not going to draft a young corner. So what better guy than Carl Scott? And we talked about, Quandre Diggs is the guy that everybody knows, right? Everybody knows Quandre Diggs. But we've talked about Tariq Woolen. Played exceptional as a rookie. Pro Bowl. Devon Witherspoon. Pro Bowl. As a rookie. So when you look at it, listen, you look at Brian Branch from Detroit. Rookie, right? These guys as rookies, you're going to need this secondary to really, really beef it up. So Carl Scott to me could be the guy that nobody expected. But again, a guy that could be your MVP signing of the offseason. You heard it here first. I think he's going to be your MVP signing of the offseason. Now, Joe says how much of Kelsey's retiring was from the disgust of this season. He might have had enough with the all-around dysfunction. If they have direction he believes in, he might return again. That you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point, Joe, because I listened to him on the radio when he was I forget if it was on the Fanatic or WIP. He was on all the time. Every week he made appearances. It might have been WIP on the morning show. He just didn't see himself. He didn't see himself. You could tell he was down, disgusted, and you could see at their games he was disgusted, and he was making a lot of silly penalties and mistakes. That's unlike Jason Kelsey, and that's what happens when everything just goes bad. It goes bad, and you're right, man. He could have been just so pissed off at everything going on, and if he feels a fuel and he feels a new fire, he's been. Listen, I still think that tush push probably takes about 2 extra years off his life, man, when it comes to football life, because he's just getting abused and battered and comes out. He's been playing with a sprained MCL. And I mean, this dude's a warrior, man. He's a warrior. And he's got little kids. And I think in his opinion, it's probably like, okay, when's it time? When is it time? And you're right. Maybe he thinks that he has one more year. And maybe he thinks that this team has one more year to go for it all. And if he believes in everything, you're right. I mean, listen, if Kellen Moore sells them and Nick Sirianni sells them, and everything gets adjusted, which I'm still weary about. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm still weary that we could change the philosophy, we could change the coaches, we could change all of that. But when it's all said and done, there was something else that was going on within that team that has to be fixed. And if it's not, it's all going to be for naught. Now, David says, good point. Mike Vrabel still not hired. Interesting. Which is a Bill Belichick guy. So, it's I'll tell you, man, that Ben Johnson cat in Detroit, the way he was ripping apart and shredding that San Francisco defense, I'll tell you, he might have earned that $15 million he said he wants a year. But think about that. You're gonna pay Ben Johnson $15 million a year. Andy Reid's getting paid $10 million a year. Right, instantaneously comes in $5 million above Andy Reid. But his offense was shredding the San Francisco defense. So he's definitely has a scheme that hasn't been figured out. And that's what you want. So again, it's going to be interesting to see if, with these new hires, if this is Fangio forcing the Eagles' hand when it comes to investing in the defense. Because again, defense wins championships. The Kansas City Chiefs would not be in this position right now if they did not have that defense balling out. Chris Jones balling out. I mean, oh my God, he was literally just bull rushing at that offensive line. They had no answer sometimes. No answer. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And the scheme that Spags runs, the discipline that he has for that outside containment of Lamar Jackson was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I can't say it enough. If you just go watch the film, watch it. Man, that is something of beauty. That's guys buying in. That's guys buying into a veteran coach and a defensive scheme that, again, is something that can't be touched. And I loved every minute of it. I like Spags. Spags is a great coach. Obviously, he has the Philadelphia ties. He goes out there in New York. All power to him. But this is his home, meaning defense. Defensive coordinator is his home. That's going to be a question that we got to ask this week. Talk about Andy Reid as the GOAT. What about Steve Spagnuolo as the GOAT? I constantly hear names like Romeo Crennel, Wade Phillips, right? Talking about these defensive minded coordinators that were unbelievable, were elite. How about Steve Spagnuolo? I think Steve Spagnuolo deserves to be in that GOAT conversation. Don't you? He has been nothing short of magnificent. Magnificent. So I'm curious to see how this Super Bowl plays out. Although I don't feel like really watching it. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't. I was not expecting this Super Bowl. I really didn't want this Super Bowl. So again, we shall see what could happen. I mean, listen, I don't even want to talk about all the media attention that's going to be on there for specific reasons. Obviously, I'm going to throw a lot of bets on the game. It's what we do, right? That'll be interesting. I'll watch the halftime show, but all in all, I just wish the Chiefs the will to win. I am a Shanahan guy, but I'm a Reid guy first. So I definitely would love to see Andy Reid get a back to back and get another ring. And then this whole does he need to win to be a GOAT talk can go out the friggin' window. Can go out the friggin' window. Let's transition to some WWE talk tonight. I love the WWE talk. I get excited. I'm a wrestling guy. And I have to ask, man, like, is it Bayley time? And is it Bayley time in the WWE? And I say that because you know we look at Bayley, and a lot of people automatically think that she's not good enough to be that star. She's not good enough to carry. And I saw a different side of Bayley. I will tell you this. If you are a WWE wrestling fan and you watch the pay-per-views, I still call them pay-per-views, even if they're on Peacock. If you watch the pay-per-views, I highly, highly recommend that you tune in to the press conference afterwards. And I get it. Some of them are staged, but not all the time. Bayley's press conference was fantastic because you could tell Bayley was that little girl again with the WWE dream. She broke character a little bit. She was extremely excited. And listen, there's no secret here that Bayley had some demons to fight with. When she tore her knee, it was a much tougher rehab than first expected. And she put on a little weight. And, it was tough, mentally tough. Went through a lot. She went through those obstacles. She had a couple setbacks. This is why it's taken her so long to get back. And this is why she hasn't been in the conversation until now. And now I think it's time for her to take a run. She has the charisma from a promo standpoint. She has, I will say this, and you know me, I drop some lines on this show sometimes, and some people go, oh, relax, but she has a unique ability that not many people had. One of them, Stone Cold, another one was The Rock. To be able, and another one was John Cena, to be able to play both sides of the crowd, to be cheered for even as a heel. There were barely chants that rung out in Tampa. The fans predominantly were happy for Bayley. I was happy for Bayley. Quiet girl. Nobody wanted to give a chance to. And the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, was the guy. And that's the thing. Like she talked about that. She talked about that, but it legitimately was the truth. Dusty Rhodes worked with two people consistently that he knew would be able to elevate from a promo and a performance standpoint. Those two people, Bayley and Sasha Banks. If it wasn't for Dusty Rhodes, there's no legit boss and there's no Bayley. And I think that speaks volumes to the talent evaluation of a guy like Dusty Rhodes. Because remember, Dusty Rhodes was leading NXT before Shawn Michaels was leading NXT. So Bayley, she's been ready. And the best thing about Bayley is she knew and she felt. See, this is when you know you're a student of the game, right? I'm going to say this. I'm going to get a little long-winded, so I apologize. If the wrestling talk isn't for you, I apologize. Listen, that's why we do this thing in chapters. You can always tune out if you don't, if you want to. If not, I'd be happy to hear your conversation pieces, your comments, your questions, your thoughts, whatever they are. But looking at Bayley, you have to look at her story. Little small town girl coming up. This was always her dream. And she's so intelligent that she felt time was up. Meaning, you can only get so much out of the face. Okay. Can only get so much. And Bayley felt it. She felt the crowd was like, all right, the hugger thing, we've had enough. But they kept pushing it. And they kept pushing it. But when you push it and you feel it, we've watched wrestlers that just never decided to change. And when you don't decide to change and your time runs out, you may never get that time back again. Bayley was like, I'm not having it. Bayley said, I'm going to change my entire persona. Bayley, the ding dong character, that all came from Bayley. The promos, damage control, those thoughts, that idea, that's all Bayley. That wasn't Hunter. That wasn't Kevin Dunn. That wasn't Michael Hayes. That wasn't Vince McMahon. That wasn't Bruce Pritchard. That was Bayley leading up her own creative thoughts as saying, this is how I'm going to reinvent myself. I think it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And I thought she had one of the best statements in this press conference when she talked about how deep the women's roster is right now, deepest it's ever been. I'll tell you what, man, if like this roster, we're going to go through it in a little bit. I'm going to talk about David's comment in a minute about Bianca. But her statement was, there was no room for the legends, right? The legends were out there to fill time before, fill spots because they 30 women, that's a lot. They didn't even have that combined with NXT and SmackDown. But my God, the stacked roster for the women in WWE right now is, and for my money, that Rumble, the women's Rumble killed the men's Rumble, killed it. The specific spots within the Rumble that happened were way more over, in my opinion, than they were with the men. Way more over. Just specific spots, right? Specific spots with the way that, Bayley preserved. With her look of when the Kabuki Warriors were inserted into the Rumble, thinking, what's going on? What's the plan? Like that was a spot. Nia Jax coming in and just destroying, wreaking havoc. Nia Jax looks unbelievable right now. Looks unbelievable. Had some really, really great moments. Bianca Belair, who David says thought would win the Royal Rumble. I love Bianca. Here's the thing, though, David. I don't think Bianca will be holding a title anytime soon. And the reason why I say that is because I think she is trying to have a baby. And, last thing you want is, a whole Becky Lynch situation where she's got to relinquish the belt. So I think that they're going to play this out for a little bit and have her like in that secondary role. And I think that she could be that good. She could be amazing even without a belt. She's that good. She's that powerful. And that brings us to Jay Cargill. Now, if you didn't watch it, I'm going to say, who needs Sasha when you have Jade? Everybody talked about they need to pay Sasha. They need to pay Sasha. We need Sasha Banks. Oh, screw that, man. If you saw Jade Cargill, you know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't see Jade Cargill, then guess what? You need to go back and watch it. She had one of the biggest over spots I've ever seen in the WWE. It was unbelievable. She came in, number one, loved the entrance. We all knew what was going to happen at the Rumble. And she came in, and the first thing she did was went right to Nia Jax. Picked up Nia Jax and literally flexed with one arm her guns while the other arm had her on her back and basically like a fireman's carry. And then body slammed her over the top rope by herself. That was unbelievable. And then to watch her stand face to face with Bianca Belair, I'll tell you what, man, they have some magic right now in that women's division. They have some legitimate magic. I'm thinking that Becky's going to walk away for a while. I think she wants to do the mom thing, which I get it. I've talked about it before. When you have husband and wife, mom and dad both on the road all the time, it's tough, man. Right? You can't have Seth as a champion covering all the time and Becky as a champion covering all the time. One of them can't be main event. One of them's going to need to be home eventually. So I think as you're seeing, Becky is getting phased out. She's getting phased out. And I don't think they're phasing out in the sense that she can't do it anymore. I think this is purposely driven by her. Listen, time off. We've heard about trips, basically understanding the family life and giving these wrestlers permitted time off. He just did it with Sami Zayn. They need to heal. They need some family time. He understands what it's like, and that's why I said that's why this evolution of the WWE right now, and no pun intended, because obviously Trips was an evolution. This is all has to do with Triple H. And speaking of that, when I talk about that press conference, there's no way in hell you would see Vince McMahon doing that press conference like that. Going over numbers, going over what he thought, breaking it down, understanding spots, understanding the history of the WWE, talking about specific wrestlers and who he was proud of and what they did. Man, Vince would never do that. This is a different element. And make no mistake about it, the reason why we haven't even got to Jordan Grace yet, but the reason why these wrestlers are returning is because Vince is out of the equation. Don't you think it's ironic? CM Punk, Naomi, all these people are coming back. Why is that? Because there's no Vince. There's a morale within the locker room that's not been there before. There's a morale, there's a buzz, there's a feeling that we like our job. We want to be here. We're not worried about being released the next day. We're not worried about being ripped a new ass because maybe we missed a bump, right? Sure, Trips is going to be hard on them because it's a product that you have to, listen, it's a global product that you have to protect. But at the same time, when you have a leader who's been there, who's done it, who understands, who's messed up promos, who's missed spots, the last thing he's going to do is act like it's never happened before. So seeing the morale change in the locker room is exactly why I can see everything changing going forward. And they asked Trips about that last night, or I should say Saturday night. I'm so used to pay-per-views being on Sunday night because now they're on Saturday, but they specifically asked him about it. And this could be the best era of wrestling in WWE ever. Over the Attitude Era, over the like, this could be the best ever. And that's what it's shaping up to be. Joe says, no wonder so many former wrestlers has had descendancy problems with no all-season weekly shows and practices while training to keep the look. Joe, I say this all the time. I'll continue to say it. People just don't understand. And I know it's their craft and I know it's their job. And people say, oh, well, let me just tell you, man, like, wrestlers, they don't get days off. They work a crazy, crazy, limitless schedule. Not everybody's Roman Reigns, right? No, not everybody has, the part-time schedule, so to speak. These people that wrestle like the Seth Rollinses of the world that wrestle all the time, right now, unless they're injured, guys like a Randy Orton, guys like AJ Styles, those cats are doing it night in and night out, live events, pay-per-views, weekly events. It's constant, man. It is constant. And they never used to get the benefit with Vince. Vince was a business first guy. Vince would basically think you were soft if you needed time off to go spend with your family. Where Trips is the other way. Trips had a near death experience, right? We know that he's spoken out about that. Do I think it changed him? Absolutely. I 100% think it changed him. But he's also been there before. He knows how tough it is. He understands. And listen, you can say what you want, but he wants to be the best. Like I'm not going to say he's ego driven, but he's out to prove that's his father-in-law, man. His father-in-law shit on him too for a few times. So what do you think? He's not out to prove that he can overtake and grow this even more? To be like, I told you so, make him eat crow? Of course. And he's going to do everything he can to do that. And it's just funny to me that I'm sitting here watching Triple H and Shawn Michaels both as respective leaders of each of their particular brands, which is great. And that's why I think you see wrestling at another level because of that. No, I don't think so, Joe. I don't think so. Vince did shit on him, man, a couple times. There was when he first took over, very, very well documented. There was a few times where, Trips had things in place and Vince went behind his back and made Trips look like an idiot, whether it be contracts, whether it be negotiations, and basically shit on him. Said, this is my company, not his, whether he was head of creative or not. Oh, you're talking about, yeah, well, those allegations are rough. Joe, did you see those text messages, by the way? And I will say this, I think Trips did a great job. I was actually shocked in a press conference. I thought, because again, a lot of it's scripted. I thought they were going to tell those media members do not ask about the allegations, and they did. And Trips was pretty good about it, man. Like he was like, basically shit on that era a little bit in no uncertain circumstances. Didn't give out any information, but he didn't divulge in that. But at the same time, he basically said, that was then, this is now. So I do think a lot more is going to start to come out, and I wouldn't be shocked if more women step up and speak out. I mean, this is bad. This is a huge black eye for that entire era. It really is. And it's showing you one thing, man. It's showing, oh, Joe, Look them up while you're working, man. The texts were from, I found them on, I think it was it was a Facebook page. I think it was called Dirt Sheet Radio, and they're legit. They got the screenshots of the text messages. There's about 4 of them. You'll be like, I hate to laugh, but you're gonna be like, wow. I mean, wait till you see this shit, dude. It is insane. And it just proves one thing. And I keep saying this, that Vince McMahon, you know, what we saw that we thought was a fabricated part of entertainment was not. That was Vince the real deal. And then we came out about, the real reason why Shane McMahon walked away earlier in the career wasn't because he wanted to go pursue other opportunities, because he didn't want to be involved. He knew it was going on. And that just shows me that, there's more than just this one girl. There's definitely more, and it's going to be bad. But I don't want to get into all that because, again, I'm waiting for it to come out so we can talk about it. I don't want to speculate. But what I want to talk about is, before we get out of here, is the surprise of Jordynne Grace, the TNA champion, the juggernaut. If you did not see her, my God, she had, in my opinion, she had the best performance of the entire Royal Rumble. Her, Braun Breaker for the guys, which is Rick Steiner's son. If you don't remember, the Steiner brothers. So Braun Breaker is Rick's son, and then you have Jordynne Grace, who's the TNA champion, total nonstop action, and she balled out, man. She balled out. And I disagree with a lot of people saying, oh, it's no big deal. We've seen it before when, Mickie James was the TNA champion. She came back. But Mickie James is different. Mickie James was a WWE superstar at one time. Jordynne Grace is 100% a professional, independent wrestler. I've been following Jordynne Grace before she lost 75 to 100 pounds and went on the bodybuilding mission. I remember her demons in and out of the ring. She's a fantastic talent that's on the industry. So for them to open up and to give TNA that publicity, because it wasn't just Jordynne Grace. They specifically made mention of TNA multiple times, which that's just great gamesmanship by the game. Something that Vince would have never done. Now, does that mean there's a part? No, I don't agree. I don't think that's it. But you heard Trips. He's like, the forbidden door. It's stupid. It's silly. Because again, he understands this is a, yes, it's a business. But here's the thing: he gives respect to those other organizations. He respects, because he's not. Here's the thing: we all know that nobody can compete with WWE. They just can't. It's impossible. So they have to label themselves as alternatives, which they are, right? And I think it's great. I think, sometimes when your time runs out, a prototypical example is Edge. The Edge character ran out, man. Edge, he didn't wear out his welcome, but it was like, what else am I here to do? I've worked with everybody, I continue to do things, and I need to do something fun again. And AEW gave him the outlet to go over there. Obviously, he can't be Edge because it's trademarked by WWE. So he's Adam Copeland, but Adam Copeland goes over there and reinvents himself in the sense of having fun again and building wrestlers up and being able to work with different wrestlers. It's an alternative. It's not competition. And Vince was always so power hungry driven that we remember when he bought out the competition with ECW and WCW. But the problem with Vince was he was so hot headed and power hungry that he had to just bury them, because he wanted to bury them, and it was wasted energy. Why? Allow them to operate, form a relationship with them, and continue to because again, it only helps you It only helps you. I mean, you have your own performance center that you are building up wrestlers. You are building up wrestlers by the dozens, man. I mean, did you see? I mean, you guys got like Trick Williams, you got Roxanne, you got Tiffany Stratton, right? Like it's Tiffy time. Like, are you kidding me? Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. These cats could perform right now. Shout out Shawn Michaels for taking over NXT and making it the juggernaut that it is right now. So I look at this and I say it's smart business. Bring the TNA champion in, allow her to showcase her stuff. You know that, listen, she's there because that's where she wants to be at this time. That she's on top of the world. That's where you want to be. So you don't know. You never want to say no. You never know what's going to happen with Jordynne Grace. Will she ever be in the WWE? We don't know, but you've left that door open. But you know, just as a conversation, but you showed that you're a professional, that you allowed her to come to a WWE event. You invited her, not allowed. You invited her. And not only did you invite her, but you gave her the, you know, honestly, besides Jade Cargill, she had the best spot in the entire Rumble for the women. That's how much he thought of her. Dude, she is a jackhammer. She is so fun to watch. She is so fun to watch. There is a lot of talent in TNA. A lot of talent in TNA. And, you know, you look at some of the women that are out there, sometimes WWE is just not their thing. I bring up, listen, Deanna Purrazzo, the virtuosa, who, once again, I you know, now she's in AEW. She was in NWA, TNA. She did it all. Deanna, in my opinion, is so good. So good. One of the best storylines in wrestling that's not talked about enough is Deanna Purrazzo, is the virtuosa character. It's second to none. It really is. But Deanna had a little stint in WWE. They didn't allow her to be creative because they're creative dominant, right? So she was allowed to go somewhere else and create her own persona. She was able to create her own direction. And she, not only did she create it, she mastered it. The virtuosa, from the music to the promos to the ring gear to the submission holds, she absolutely nailed it. Nailed it. So there's a lot of credence in other organizations, and it was so nice, in my opinion, to see Trips pay homage to them, and not only, you know, not have her come be a jobber, have her come to be an intricate part of the Women's Royal Rumble. So I think that was really, really, really good. So on that note, man, we had a great show. Again, you know, we go 12:30 tonight. It's fine. We had a lot of good, you know, a lot of good conversations about the trading or not trading of AJ Brown. You know, does Andy Reid need to be the GOAT? Does defense win championships? Will Fangio force the Eagles' hand when it comes to investing in the defense? Who needs Sasha when you have Jade? Is it Bayley time in WWE? Is Bayley ready to take over the WWE women's division? I think she is. I think she is going to have one hell of a WrestleMania moment. Now, if you listen to this on replay, and I would love to engage within the comments. If you're on YouTube and you're watching this on YouTube, get into the comments. Let me know. Is it Bayley time? Are you surprised Bayley won a Royal Rumble? Are you happy for Bayley winning a Royal Rumble? Do you think she's ready to elevate, to go on a tear as the WWE champion? Because obviously, I think we all know it's set up for her to go against Io Sky. They want Bayley to have that title so they can move ahead with Bayley and Rhea Ripley dominating the women's division. So I do like that. Again, Jade Cargill. Who needs Sasha when you have Jade? I agree. You know, Sasha looks like she is AEW bound. Good for her. I will be tuned in because I am a big Sasha Banks fan, but I'm a huge Jade Cargill fan too. And again, I think Jade Cargill is going to make everybody forget that Sasha Banks was even a rumor to come back to WWE. Philadelphia Eagles, if AJ Brown is an issue, if something is to be deemed unfixable, would you trade AJ Brown? Let me know in the comments. Does Andy Reid need to win another one to be the GOAT, or is he the GOAT already? Bill Belichick still can't find a job, but Andy Reid gets picked up a day in 2013 after he's removed from the head coaching spot of the Philadelphia Eagles. Think about it. Think about it. It's crazy. Think about it. My man David says Bianca Belair will win the women's championship. I again, David, I love Bianca. I just don't think she will, simply because I think she's trying to have a kid. And, I think WWE recognizes that because they have that new reality program and she talks about it, just like John Cena and Nikki Bella talked about it. And I think they're going to be reluctant to give her a championship and then have to vacate it if she does get pregnant and she has to take time off. So, and listen, Alexa Bliss is on her way back as well, too. Just another name to add to the litany of talent within the WWE when it comes to the women's division. So, as always, man, been a fantastic show. I appreciate everybody, David, Joe, everybody who got one of the comments with Vance and Mike and Chris and Eric and Sean, everybody, man, fantastic. Hopefully I read them all, and I'll continue to read even more as they come back. Tomorrow night, we'll be back here 11 o'clock, as always, right here on Heat Ratio Sports. This is HRS Late Nights by your host, Tony Cutillo. Make sure you give us a follow on all socials at Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you're following the Heat Ratio Sports YouTube page as well. And again, I say this again, the Super Bowl is coming up. The Super Bowl is coming up. If you're going to place any wager on anything for the Super Bowl, make sure to contact me first. I'll make sure you get the right deal. I'll put you in the right direction, give you the proper link, make sure you get the bonus bets you need, and give you the bet you need to place in order to get those bonus bets. I have every book from Bet365 to Caesars to Bet Rivers to DraftKings to FanDuel, Sleeper, Owner's Box, Prize Picks, you name it, I have it. So make sure you get in touch with me, and I will continue to make sure that you get the proper picks that you need in order to get those bonus bets. I'll have you living on no sweat bets for 2 weeks without even making another deposit. So make sure you hook me up hook up with me before the Super Bowl. But as always, man, been a fantastic show. I say it all the time. I just want everybody to do one good thing they can throughout the day. And again, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. Back here.